So in the last video, we created a dropper and conveyor to convey our juicy drops to nothing. But in this video, we'll be creating this collector to collect our drops and turn it into some money that's held within our bank. We can collect that money from our bank and then buy stuff with it. So stay tuned for that. Make sure to like the video if you enjoy it. Subscribe to my channel to stay up to date with the Tycoon videos. And make sure to watch the previous Tycoon video if you haven't. So without further ado, let's get started. So we're going to start with what I like to call the collector, because it's responsible for collecting the items that are dropper drops at the end of the conveyor. So in front of me, I have a very simple model. It just consists of 4 parts. And the middle part, this is important, it's named collider. You can see right here, collider, because it collides with our parts when they are dropped. And that'll be responsible for getting the touched event for when it's hit. So let's make this into a component. I'm going to hover over the model, go to add new tag in the tag editor, and you can find that in plugins or something if you can't. And then we're going to check the box after the tag, because tag editor plugin got an update recently. Now you have checkboxes, which is a lot better than the other system. I'm glad they changed that. And now we can take our collector and shove it into our Tycoon. So let's bring our Tycoon template from server storage into the workspace. And we can take our collector, move it down here. I'm going to rotate it using Control R just to get into a nice spot. That looks pretty good because we need it to be at the very end of the conveyor line. And that looks about right. I'm just going to move it a little closer just so it touches all of the parts that get collected. And that seems to be good. So I'm going to shove it into the template in the Explorer window. So we have our template with the collector inside of it. And I can take it and put it into server storage. Now we can start scripting. Let's go to server script service components, and we can create a new module script. And this will be yet another component, this time with the name of collector, matching our tag name. And you know the drill, same stuff as always. Make an object-oriented class. And we will need references to both the Tycoon and our instance, so I'm going to do that now. Okay, so we have the basic class constructed, and now we need to do a few things. So let's go into our collector init and add a little function block. We're going to say self.instance.collider.touched connect a function with some ellipses, and then we're going to call another function, and we'll make that down here. This function will be named self, or collector, I should say, on touched. And this will have a hit part, the part that hits our collector. And then up here we can say self on touched within the touched event, and we can send in the ellipses, which will pass in our hit part variable. Okay, so all we're doing is getting the part when it's touched, and we send the part that touched it just so we can handle it. And then what we want to do is destroy the parts that are drops. You don't want to destroy all the parts, because if the player hits it, we don't want their legs falling off. That would not be good. So we need a way to verify that the part that hit us is an actual drop. And we're going to kill 2 birds with 1 stone by also giving each drop an attribute named worth. So I'm going to go to my copper, go down to add attribute, and set the attribute to a number, and then the name, I'm just going to say worth. I'm going to set that to, let's say, 5. So each copper block will be worth 5 money. And since this worth attribute is unique to our drop, we can use that to verify if the hit part is an actual drop. So let's do that. In our onTouch function block, we can say, let me just zoom in real quick. There you go. Local worth equals hit part get attribute worth. And then below that, we can say if worth. So if our part has a worth value, then we know it is a copper drop. Unless you have other attributes with worth, I would not recommend that. You'd have to check for that on your own. Now, what we can do is we're not going to automatically assign money to the player because we need them to collect it at the little like ATM looking machines that most tycoons have, where you have to go and touch it. You can obviously assign the money directly to the player if you want right here, but I'm just gonna go for a more complete example and do the first scenario. So how are we gonna do that? We want to notify our tycoon basically that there's money that is meant to be had. So we're going to use the previously implemented topic system. So I'm going to do self.tycoon publish topic, and it's going to be worth change, and then we'll send in the worth value. And then after we have published it, we can just destroy the hit part because it's a, drop. We don't really need it anymore. And just to keep our game from getting cluttered as well. So we'll publish this topic, and then another component will consume the topic or subscribe to the topic, and then when the player touches that part, the money will get added to their leader stats. So right now, let's just verify that it works with a print statement. So we can say print worth changed. And keep in mind, our collector at this moment does not have an unlockable, so it will be unlocked off the bat, which is what we want. So here we are. Let's hold E to get our copper dropper, and then you can see the drops will steadily make their way towards the end, in which they will be destroyed, and you can see worth changed is being printed out. If it doesn't work, make sure to check your spelling, because spelling is important in this situation. So now that everything's working, we can get rid of our worth changed and then go back into our base plate. So I have another model in front of me. This is going to be our bank, which is the part responsible for receiving the collector's publishes and then distributing that money for the player. So in that regard, it's like a bank. It gets the money that you have and like distributes it to you. I mean, it's more like an ATM, but whatever. So we want to have this bank display your current balance that's waiting to get cashed in or recovered. So I'm going to use a surface GUI for that because it looks pretty cool. This part right here, this little black part, is going to be our screen, and it's named display base. The name doesn't matter because I'm going to put the surface GUI in the model itself. So I'm going to create a surface GUI, and then I'm going to name the surface GUI display, and then I'm going to set the adornee, which is the part that it will like reside on, to the display base. And if you've done that, you can see there's a little blue outline now around the part. And if you can't see the blue outline, most likely your part is rotated the wrong way. So you can just like rotate it around and just make sure you see that. And then underneath my display, I'm going to create a text label. And this label looks really stupid, so I'm going to go to size and set the size to 0 on the offset, 1 on the scale, and then set 0 to the offset, 1 on the scale for both X and Y, so it fills up the entire space. And then I also want to make it transparent, so I'm going to set background transparency to 1. And I'm going to go down to the text section, make the text like a sample value, so I'm going to make like 0. You can see it faintly. I'm first going to click the check scale or text scaled button, so our text is scaled properly. And then I'm going to change the color to, I don't know, like a green. Yeah, that green looks pretty good. So there is our display done. And I'm going to name this text label money. So this is the money text label. So that's the model done. We can bring back our template from server storage and shove our bank model in. So here's our template. Here's our bank. I'm going to drag the bank just about over here. So I want like the front of my Tycoon to be around this area, so the bank will be close by. And that seems pretty good, so I'm going to shove the bank into the template. And then in here, in the tag editor, I'm going to add a new tag called bank, and I'm going to assign my bank tag to the model. You can see it's already done here. There we go. Make sure the check bar is checked, and this will be unlocked off the start. So let's take our template, shove it into our server storage, and get to scripting once again. So our basic component is built up. Let's get to scripting. So we will need our Tycoon in our instance, and we're also going to create another value called self.balance. I'm going to set this to 0. This is going to be a number value that will represent your money balance that's in the bank currently. So what will happen is when the collector gets a drop, it will add to our balance, and then once the player steps on the bank pad, it will reset that balance. And by the way, I did not mention this. If I go into my template and back into my bank, I have a part named pad. That was a little green part at the bottom. And when you touch that, you'll be able to get your money back. And you could use a proximity prompt if you wanted to, but I think a pad is a little bit easier. So make sure you have a part named pad. But back in our code, we can go to our init function, and we want to first subscribe to our topic. So self.tycoon.subscribe topic to our worth change topic, and then connect a function, and then here we'll say self on worth change, and then send in the ellipses that we got from our function. So now let's define the function self on worth change, and it should be bank. So bank on worth change. So when our worth is changed, we will get the worth that it'll be changed by, and then all we want to do is say self.balance plus equals worth. So we'll just add the worth to our balance, and then what we also want to do is change that little GUI, that display GUI, to the actual balance that we have currently, so we won't update it. And I'm going to make a dedicated function for that because we're going to be using it quite a bit. So I'm going to do function bank set display, and this will take in the string that we want to set our display to. And then all we do here is say self.instance dot display dot money dot text. There's a lot of dots here, sorry, but it has to be done, equals string. So this is a little shortcut just to set our money label. We can say that here by saying self set display in our on worth change function. We could say self set display to a $, and then do a dot self.balance. So it'll take the $, concatenate it to our current balance, which is exactly what we want. So we can try that out right now. And then if we get our thing, you can see our bank is sitting there proudly. And as the money flows in, the number is changing. But right now we step on it, it does absolutely nothing. So we need to add that. So we need to hook another event to our bank init, and this will be self.instance .pad .touched connect a function with ellipses as per usual. We'll just do self on touched, and we'll send in the ellipses. So below our set display, we can just make a function bank on touched when our pad is touched, and make sure the self.instance dot is changed to whatever part you have that will act as your pad. In my case, it's a pad named pad, so that works out quite well. So when it's touched, we'll get our hit part. So in our onTouched function, the parameters will be our hit part. And then we need to verify if this part is a player, and if it is a player, we need to make sure it's our owner. So let's do that. We're going to say local character equals hit find first ancestor, which is a model. So just find the first ancestor, that's a model. I should change this to hit part. Whoops. And then we want to get the players. So I'm going to say local player equals game get service players get player from character. So this will get the character from, or this will get the player from our character, I should say. So then we can say if player and player equals self.tycoon.owner, then, so if the player exists and the player is our owner, then we can do something. And I just want to make sure the character exists. So I'm going to say if character, then, and then below our end down here, I'm just going to say end, and then tab it all in. There we go. Just to make sure. It should work normally because get player from character shouldn't error on no value, but let's not risk it. Let's just put if character up here. And so we need to do down here, we need to access our player manager that we made a couple videos ago with the button, and then we need to add the money. So I'm going to go to the top of my script and define the player manager by saying local player manager equals require script.parent.player manager. And then all we need to do down here is just set our money. So I can say player manager set money to our player, and then we want to define a value that will represent the new money value we want to set. So I'm going to say local player money equals player manager get money for our player, and then plus our self.balance. So we get the money for our current player and we add our current balance, and then we set our player money to player money. So set money, player money. And this is obviously not necessary. I'm just doing this for visual sake. You could just take this block and put it right here if you wanted to. And then after we set our player money, we want to reset our balance by saying self.balance equals 0, and then also reset the display. So we can say self set display to a $sign and then 0. So now when we step on the part, it should make sure we exist and we are the owner, and then give us the appropriate money resetting the bank. Let's try that out. There's a couple errors. Let's see what went wrong. I misspelled require. That is quite unfortunate. Let's try it again. Okay, there you go. That was a really embarrassing error. But you can see drops are coming in as per usual. And once we step on the bank pad part, the money gets added to our leader stats. And so let's do an official test by setting our little test component that we had from one of the very first videos to actually cost money to unlock. So I'm going to go back to one of our buttons. Let me see which one it is. It's this button down here. I'm going to set the cost to like 10. And this is the one that unlocks that like a really pointless part. But we're just going to see if this works. So you can see this part here. Can't unlock it. So let's get our dropper to make us money. So now we have $10 in our bank. We collect that money. We have 20 money in our account. Then we can buy this part. And you can see the entire Tycoon system works as planned. So, I mean, honestly, you can like stop here and you have a pretty much complete Tycoon. But there's a bunch of other things that you have to add to obviously make it polished, and that's what we'll be doing in the future videos. So that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. We got a lot done today. We actually have a functioning Tycoon in all ways. So in the next couple of videos, we're going to be polishing the system, adding some extra features like data saving and like Tycoon spawning and stuff like that. So stay tuned for that. Make sure to comment any questions or suggestions you have down below. Join my Discord servers to talk about the Tycoon or anything else related to Roblox scripting. And subscribe to my channel if you want to keep up to date with the Tycoon series. Like the video if you enjoyed it. But other than that, I hope you have a nice day, and goodbye.